Welcome to the Met Office 10-day trend that takes us into the first week of August and therefore into the final month of summer. And what a summer it's been so far. A lot of statistics about July will be out at the end of this week, so stay tuned to the Met Office for more on that. Let's take a look at what's going on. People are desperate for some rain, of course, and we will see some in the forecast. The jet stream, though, as is often the case at this time of year, is pretty weak. You can see it's in this kind of trough, this little dip, and that is generating low pressure systems that are bringing some showery rain over the next couple of days across the northern half of the UK. But further south, generally, high pressure remains in control. But then this little area of low pressure drifts by the south as we go into the early part of next week. And that might provide a little bit of very welcomed rain across the south. More on that in a second, though. Let's rewind the clock and go back to the more immediate future, where we do have things cooling down. A hot day on Wednesday across the southeast, but the first cold front is passing across the country, not producing much rain as it heads south. It's really weakening, just a cloudier day here, maybe the odd light shower drifting through, but close to the low pressure, some heavy showers across northern Scotland, slow moving showers as well. And that cold front sinking south, introducing cooler conditions for many. Still warm in the afternoon sunshine. We could still get to 27, 28 in and around the London area, but those temperatures considerably down on Wednesday's values. Now, what's left of that weakening front continues to bring a little light rain and drizzle maybe through Thursday night before slowly pulling away as we head into Friday. And then again, a few showers coming in on a brisk west or southwesterly breeze for Northern Ireland and Scotland. But most of England and Wales, again, will be dry with sunny spells. But instead of temperatures in the mid-30s, we are in the mid-20s, so much closer to the average for the time of year. A little bit warmer, perhaps than the mid-month average across the south, but further north, only into the mid to high teens, so actually a little cooler than average here on Friday. So we are seeing that fresher feel, low pressure being pushed along by that weak jet stream to the north, allowing the winds to come in more from the west. But we've still got this arm, if you like, ridge of high pressure dominating across the south. Then eyes down to the southwest, this area of low pressure trying to push in, but making very slow progress as we go through towards the weekend. So for most, high pressure remains in control. Yes, close to the low, there'll be one or two scattered showers this weekend over northern Scotland, but for the vast majority, the weekend will be largely dry. A fine summer's weekend, really, with sunny spells and temperatures certainly across the south much closer to the average compared to where they are through the middle part of the week. So it is turning a bit cooler for the weekend, but it's not really turning much wetter. There are some hints that we could see some rain, but there's lots of ifs and buts about that as we go into the early part of next week. This map is showing the UK and how much rain we're going to see over the next 5 days until Tuesday, based on the three main models that we look at, the Met Office model here, the ECMWF model in the middle, and the GFS, the American model, on the right. And they're all showing a pretty similar pattern that, yes, with those showers coming in, we will see some wet weather at times across Scotland, perhaps northwest England and North Wales as well, but not a lot across these southern areas. A little bit of showery rain as that front moves through, but otherwise we're not expecting to see much over the next few days across the south. But there are hints that we could just see something as this area of low pressure approaches. It depends on its exact track, which in turn will of course depend on the jet stream. But of course, with the jet stream, as is usual at this time of year, being fairly feeble, really hard to pick out too much in the way of trend. So this low doesn't look much, and in the Met Office model, it actually moves more across northern France, bringing some showery rain here and almost bypasses the UK completely because the jet stream just pushes it along. But if we compare what the ECMWF, the European model, is doing with the jet stream, you see it here on the Met Office model, fairly weak and down to the south, but fairly straight. Then there are hints here from the European model. The UK's under here that we've got a bit more of a dip in the jet stream here. These are the winds high up in the sky where the jet stream is. And you can see there is more of a dip there, suggesting there's a bit more of a trough, and so potentially developing that area of low pressure a little bit more, and therefore pushing a bit further north and across to the UK, which would provide some useful rain. Now that's when we just look at the main ECMWF model. Obviously, if you watch the 10-day trend long enough, you'll know that we use these. We use the Ensemble members, where you run the model many times, 50 times to be precise for the European model, and that gives you more of a probabilistic look at the weather. Now, I appreciate these are quite hard to pick out, but if we zoom in, you can just see a couple here, member 25 and member 16, have that low pressure for Monday into Tuesday, sitting right over the UK. This one in particular, quite potent with a lot of isobars around. It's not just bringing some rain, but also potentially bringing some strong winds. But these are in the minority. Many more of them have a much weaker pressure signal with a fairly feeble area of low pressure, still capable of providing some showers moving in across particularly southern parts of the UK. So there is the potential for some showery rain as we go into the early part of next week. After that, well, at this time of year, again, signals are often fairly weak, but the main thing coming out from most of the models is that some form of high pressure will re-establish itself across the UK. And this is the most likely scenario for next Wednesday, greater than a 50% chance actually, with a high pressure sitting somewhere up to the northwest, which would allow the breeze to be more coming in from the east or the north. The second most likely scenario has that high in a similar position to it, where it has been actually of late, more to the west of the UK. And if we run through into Thursday and Friday as well, again, still the chance has dropped somewhat. Now it's just a 30% chance, but that's actually quite a high number for this far ahead, over a week ahead. But still with high pressure in control. Remember, high pressure means the air is sinking, which doesn't generate much in the way of rain. And even the second and the third most likely scenarios all have high pressure dominating close by to the UK. If we forward to Friday, again, the most likely scenario is that same setup, and the other two also either high pressure or unbiased, which means there's not really much of a signal between high or low pressure. So you can see from there, the second half of next week is more likely than not still going to be dominated by high pressure. And these are showing the temperature trends. Again, when you run the model many times, the European model for two different locations. The one at the top is for Dundee, the one at the bottom is for Birmingham. You can see that the Birmingham extreme, the temperatures here, this is close to the extremes. This is the average line across the middle, and you can see that we're right up there for Birmingham to start with. At the time of recording, very hot day in Birmingham, but we soon get that drop down closer to average, but always pretty much above average, even as we go into next week, but much closer to average than we have been. Perhaps a little bump in temperatures on Monday there, with that greater uncertainty. The box and whiskers much fatter because there's more uncertainty about the track of the low. And it's a similar story for Dundee, not as hot, certainly at time of recording, much closer to average, but we do get that little dip before potentially a little rise into Monday and Tuesday, depending on the track of that low, which could push some air up from the south. And then through much of next week, we are close to or a little below average, say in Dundee. But either way, much closer to average temperatures through next week, with a little chance of seeing much in the way of extreme temperatures after what has been a very hot summer so far. So looking for rain, well, certainly in the south, there may be a little next week, but we're not looking at a change in our weather patterns, nothing dramatic, which is really what we need if you want to see a lot of rain. So yes, there is the chance of some rain early next week, but it's unlikely to be a huge amount. Much of next week still likely to be dominated by high pressure, which means still much of next week is likely to be dry. And as we've just seen, those temperatures are likely to be closer to average, with the chances of extreme heat pretty slim. More on all of that, as always, if you follow us across social media, and for the day-to-day details, you'll want to make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel.